Welcome! This is section 3 of the Tranquility Blanket Crochet Along, and I'm here to teach you how to make the Peaceful Puffs blanket strip. You can look at the fabric here. We've created this nice kind of diagonal pattern with puff stitches, and this section is going to be easier than it looks. It's a combination of half double crochets, puff stitches, and single crochet rows. A couple of things to note before we get started is that you're going to need your H hook and your favorite worsted weight yarn in one color. You can use Caron 1 pound, Big Twist Value is what I've used here in eggplant color. Anything you like will work for this. You can also use it for a different weight yarn and a different hook. I would just suggest finding something that coordinates for you. And you'll probably want to play around with a gauge swatch to be able to get the same size blanket. But for this pattern, there is a multiple of 6. So if you're following the crochet along, you've already got the dimensions figured out, you know how many stitches you have. But if you want to make this a smaller blanket, bigger blanket, whatever size you want, you just want to make sure that you create a base that is in a multiple of 6 stitches. And I have all the details in the written pattern on my blog that will tell you how to get started. For row 1 of the crochet along, you're going to make a row of single crochet stitches all the way across. You're just simply going to chain 1 and single crochet in every stitch of the blanket. If you are making this blanket from scratch or you're starting from 0, you might want to do what I'm doing here, where I'm creating a foundation single crochet chain, or I guess it's not a chain, but a foundation single crochet base. That's going to be my turning chains or my foundation chains and my single crochets from row 1 all in the same row. I like to do this because it's stretchier and just gives a more consistent look. But if you want to make a long foundation chain and then single crochet back into it, I have the directions for that. So I am going to make my sample size here 36 stitches long, just to give you an idea of how these rows are going to come together. This pattern is a really simple 4-row repeat that I think you're going to love and totally fits within the tranquil theme for this crochet along. And that is the end of row 1. Like I said before, if you are following with the crochet along, you have simply single crocheted into the transitional rows, 1 in every stitch. And I did a foundation single crochet row instead, just to get that started. Let's move on to row 2. So turn your work. We're going to start with a chain 2. This chain 2 counts as a stitch. So your first direction is to put a puff stitch or 2 puff stitches to get started, but you're not going to do it into the first one. You're going to do it into the second stitch here, because this chain 2 is going to count as a stitch here and throughout the pattern. So a puff stitch we'll walk through is yarn over, insert your hook into that second stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. Repeat that again one more time. Now I have 5 loops on the hook. I'm going to repeat it one more time until I have 7 loops on my hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm going to yarn over and pull through all the loops on my hook. I find it easiest to kind of pinch the puff stitch as I slide my hook through and pull that yarn. So there's the first puff stitch. I'm not going to do anything to close the stitch or anything. I'm going to go right into my next puff stitch. So the directions are to do 2 puff stitches to start. All right, I've got 7 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through all the loops. And then we're going to half double crochet 3 in the, half double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. And then we're going to puff stitch in each of the next 3 stitches. And it's important to get your puff stitches not too tight. I try to pull my loops up so they are parallel, or my hook is parallel to my work. I'll show you that again. So every time I bring up a loop, I try and pull it up so that my hook can be parallel with my work. This keeps the puff stitches from getting too tight, which makes it hard to pull your hook through at the end. So 2, I got 1 more puff stitch to make. I'm going to set this down so I can show you how it's going so far. So we did our chain 2 puff stitches, and then we're going to, I know it's a little hard to see, but we're going to repeat 3 half double crochets, 3 puff stitches, all the way to the end of the row until there are 3 stitches remaining. That's how we're going to do this row. When there's 3 stitches remaining, I'll be back and let you know what to do. Now that I've almost completed row 1, I have 3 stitches left to do, and I'm going to make a half double crochet in each of the remaining 3 stitches. And there is the end of row 1. As we go along those puff stitches, this is the wrong side of the work, so this is the back side of the project. So you'll see the stitches pop out as we go through. All right. Turn your work, and the next row is just going to be a row of single crochet stitches. So chain 1, it's going to be a repeat of row 1 where you're going to chain 1. That chain does not count as a stitch. So single crochet into the very first stitch and single crochet to the end of this row. Okay, we're almost at the end of row 3, and I want to make sure I point out that the chain 2 from the row before and all of the puff stitch rows does count as a stitch. So we need to make sure that we put a single crochet into that chain. So let me finish into the last puff stitch. Here is my chain 2. I need to single crochet into the top of that chain 2. So insert your hook there and make that final chain 2 stitch. There we are at the end of row 3. Turn our work, and we're going to start row 4. Again, just like the other puff stitch row, we're going to chain 2 to start, and then we're going to basically do the opposite of what we did in row 2. So instead of 2 puff stitches to start, we're going to start with 2 half double crochet stitches. And again, that chain 2 starts as your first stitch. So half double crochet into the next stitch. 2 half double crochets. Now we're going to do 3 puff stitches. followed by 3 half double crochet stitches into the next 3 stitches. And we're just going to continue to repeat from the puff stitches. So 3 puff stitches, 3 half double crochets. You're going to repeat that all the way down until there are 3 stitches remaining. So I'm going to work on that and I will show you what to do at the end of this row. All right, we're at the end of row 4. We have 3 stitches remaining, and to finish out the row, we're going to do 2 puff stitches. And then a half double crochet, just to keep that edge nice and straight. There is the end of row 4. The next row is going to be a repeat of that single crochet row. So turn your work. You can start to see the puff stitches. For me, my puff stitches stand out on the wrong side of the work. They're a little puffier on this side, which I really like. Let me know how yours turn out. But again, we're just going to do a row of single crochets, and then we're going to repeat the puff stitch rows. So where you're alternating, we're going to repeat that until we get to row 16, and then you're going to fasten off and weave in your ends and move on to the next section of the crochet along. If you are making your own blanket, I have directions in my pattern as well for how many rows you can make to just make a blanket in this pattern by itself. So be sure to check that out. But I hope you enjoy this tutorial. I hope you enjoy the crochet along, and let me know if you have any questions. I'll be happy to help. Don't forget at the end of your rows to put that last single crochet into the top of your chain 2 from the row below. That's the end of the Peaceful Puffs blanket strip. You can keep going to create the next section of the Tranquility blanket, or just continue this pattern and make your own blanket with the sizes indicated in the pattern. I hope you enjoy this tutorial, and I'll catch you next time.